Welcome to Dreamforce. Hope everybody's had a great time at Dreamforce 19 this year. We've certainly had a good time being here. Lots of good news, great news at the keynote for what's going on with commerce and communities. So we're really excited about our new changes. Fleetwood Mac was a great show, stuff like that. So we've just had a great week, and thanks for being here on Friday morning early after a long week. So I'm Trish Myers. I lead the commerce and community practice for Cognizant. So anything Salesforce commerce and communities worldwide comes through my practice. And today with me, I've got Andrew Day and Ryan Ciccarella, two of my functional technical leaders in the practice. And today we're going to talk to you about how to be a UI UX ninja with Handlebars. Our safe harbor statement. Make any buying decisions on what you have seen from the product people outside. No promises or anything of future. Don't make any buying decisions on that. So if we're all good with that, we are going to show you some really cool stuff, but you've already purchased it if you have commerce. Okay, so just a couple FAQs and information on how we're going to present today. So we're going to show you steps on the screens so you can take notes of those. We're also going to have live coding going on. So we're going to go back and forth between PowerPoints and live coding. We've pre-built some of the cache files that are needed for this, just in the essence of time. Those have been pre-built just so you can see the results. Also, following the presentation, our presentation will be online. Not only does it have the slides that you'll see here today, but it has the actual coding slides in the back as well. And then also, if you needed to reach us afterwards, you had any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We do have www.cognizenttradingpost.com, which is one of our sample sites. And there's a contact us button there, and you can certainly reach out to us at any time. Okay, so first off, what is Handlebars.js, right? So this is a templating engine that's powerful. It's super simple to use. It's built on the old Mustache template framework. And what this is it's a compiler. It's going to take all of our HTML and handlebars and it turns it into a JavaScript function for us. And that allows us to do some really cool things on the page and kind of change how things look. That's very dynamic, and it helps build our documents markup. Okay, so we do a lot of work for a lot of customers around the globe in a lot of different industries. And so what we did is we came together and we said, gosh, what does everybody always ask us for? So there's 3 customizations that we get requested pretty much on every single project. Customers want to put like an alert banner, right? Maybe there's a coupon sale, maybe there's a weather alert and it shut down the shipping and stuff like that. So how do we do that to put an alert on every page is a top one. Also, out of stock items. How is it easier to show out of stock items so that you have a better customer experience so they don't put something in the cart and then they get an error message at the end? And then custom cart sorting. So this is B2B, and B2B, we have a lot of people who do really big carts, right? So we're not talking about a $49.95 special on a B2C site. We're talking about a $100,000 order that may have 200 line items in it. And so it's really hard a lot of times for that customer to see what the heck did I buy. And so we actually will show you guys how to customize the cart sorting to make it easier for that customer to see what they buy and confirm their order before they check out. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Day. He's going to take you through exercise 1, our alert banner.
All right, thank you so much, Trish. So in this exercise, we're going to learn how to find existing Handlebars template code. We're going to modify a Handlebars template. We're going to create Handlebars block helpers, and we're going to use Salesforce custom settings with Handlebars to create this alert banner effect. As you can see up at the top, we have a get 30% off with coupon code holidays, and that's basically what we're going to be constructing and controlling with Handlebars for this demonstration. All right, so I'm going to switch the view over to Ryan's screen, so he's going to be following along with the code and the actual org while I'm speaking here. So our first step is going to be to create an alert banner custom setting. And so we'll have 2 fields on this custom setting. Enabled, which is a checkbox, and that just governs if that alert banner is going to show on the storefront. And the second field is message, and that's the actual text that will display in the alert banner. So once we have that custom setting configured, that's what's going to basically drive our banner. Next, we're going to determine the name of the Handlebars template that we want to override. And the way we do this in our daily workflow is we go into static resources, we download the CC JavaScript framework static resource, and we go into the JS folder that's inside of that static resource, and we look at a file called uiproperties.js. And so that file contains all of the different handlebar templates that we can override. And right at the very top, we have the one that we want to override, which is header desktop. So that's the name of the handlebars template that we're going to override for this exercise. So once we have that name, we'll copy that, and we'll actually grab the handlebars template code by going into our storefront and opening the JavaScript console, and we're going to use some jQuery to actually grab that template code, as you can see Ryan doing here. And so what we'll do is we'll actually copy all of that template code, and we're going to put that into a Visualforce component. So we'll create a new Visualforce component for this exercise. We created one called df_header override. We're using df for Dreamforce. And inside our component, we're opening up a script tag with type text/template. We'll give our script a unique ID, and we'll paste in our template code. And another thing we're going to do here is we're going to add a little bit of hello world text at the top, just to make sure it's using our custom overridden template instead of the default. So once we have that all set up and saved, our next step will be to create a Visualforce page for the header includes end for all pages. So in B2B Commerce, we have these custom configurations. Body includes begin, body includes end, header includes begin, header includes end. And so we're doing a header includes end here, and what that means is we can create a Visualforce page, and we can include that in the ending of the header section of our document. And so that's what we're going to do. So we've created this Visualforce page. It's called df_HIE for header includes end all, because we want it on all pages. Set the doc type to HTML5, disable the sidebar, disable the header, disable standard style sheets, pretty standard stuff. And we're going to include our Visualforce component that we created in the previous step, and we're going to write a line of JavaScript that is essentially telling CloudCraze to use our custom template for the header instead of the default. So once we've done that and we've saved our Visualforce page, our next step is to go into CC admin. So that's the B2B Commerce administration settings, and we're going to tell B2B Commerce to use our body includes end, our custom Visualforce page. And so we're going to create two new configuration settings for our Dreamforce 2019 storefront. So the first one, we're going to set enabled to true for header includes end, and we're going to set the page include name to our custom Visualforce page. And we're going to make sure there, so here you can see that our enabled is set to true, and our custom Visualforce page is there, and we always have to include C___ at the beginning for custom Visualforce pages. And for Apex classes, as you'll see later, you have to do a C dot. And that's just something you need to know if you're developing for B2B Commerce. So once we have those two configuration settings in there, the next step is to create and activate a new configuration cache. So we've already prepared those caches, so we don't need to wait for it to refresh. But the next step would be to go into the global settings, go to configuration cache management, click on build new, and then once it's done building, click activate and deactivate the old configuration cache. And so that'll allow us to see our changes in the storefront. So our next step, once we have that all configured, is to test it out. So as you can see in the top left, we should have a hello world popping up there. So we're good so far. We're on the right track. We have our custom code showing up in the storefront. So now that we know everything's working so far, we'll actually go and create a handlebars block helper. So we'll open up our Visualforce component that we created earlier. And in here, we're going to have a script tag type text/JavaScript, and we're going to register a handlebars block helper. And so you can see we've created, we're calling handlebars.registerHelper. We're calling this alert banner enabled. And essentially, what we're doing is we're just checking our custom setting to see if it is enabled, and if it is, we're going to return everything that's inside that block. So a handlebars block helper, if Ryan scrolls up a bit, you can see it basically encapsulates a block of code with an opening handlebars expression and a closing handlebars expression. And so, yeah, and so there's the closing one down there. And so you can see the two curly brackets around it. And so that's handlebars. That's the handlebars syntax whenever you see that. And if you go back up to the opening expression, the way you can tell it's a block expression is it has the hash sign. And so all that code between the opening and the closing will be rendered to the page if our alert banner is enabled. And so that's essentially what's going on there. So our next step is to add a bit of styling, which we have done here. And so this is just making our alert banner look a little bit better. So making the font color white, making the background red, and adjusting the height of the header to support that. So that's just some pretty basic CSS that we've included as well. And so once we have that all configured and saved, it's time to test our results. And we should see our alert banner if we refresh our page with our custom message right there. So there we go. So I'm going to switch back over to my screen. So we have a few exercises if you guys want to take this exercise and go a bit further on your own. See if you can add some custom settings to control the background and font colors as well to add a little bit more flexibility for your clients. Number two, see if you can add media queries. How can you make this mobile compatible? How can you make it look good on a tablet and smartphone? Number three, tweak custom settings and code to support hyperlinking if a user clicks on the banner. So see if you can create some configurations to allow for users to actually click on that, get 30% off, and actually take them to a separate page. And if you want to get a little bit more advanced, try to achieve the same functionality using custom CC admin configuration settings instead of Salesforce custom settings. So B2B Commerce allows you to do your own custom CC admin configuration settings. So that's a little bit more advanced. And here we have just an example for number one. You can see we're pulling in font color and background color from Salesforce custom settings. Okay, so what just happened? What did we do? So we created an alert banner for the top of our storefront. So we created some custom settings. We identified the handlebars template that we want to override. We modified the handlebars template code. We put that into a Visualforce component. We included that in a Visualforce page. We told B2B Commerce to use our custom Visualforce page in a header includes end. And we specified that in the CC admin settings, and we did the required cache changes to make that happen. So that's a quick recap of exercise number one. So we'll go ahead and jump straight into exercise number two, which is a fun one. So this is out of stock images. And what we're going to be doing with this exercise is we're going to actually gray out our product images if they are out of stock. And we're going to add some opacity, and we're going to make it just a little bit more clear and have some fun visually with out of stock images. And we're going to use handlebars to achieve that. All right, so I'm going to switch back over to Ryan's screen so you can see what we're doing here. So just like we did with the last exercise, our first step here is going to be to find which handlebar templates we want to override. So we're back in UI properties, and we're going to want to override two different templates for this exercise. So number one is the product item grid, and number two is the product item row. And so B2B Commerce offers two product list views out of the box, the grid view and the row view for the product list. And so we're going to do both for this exercise. So once we have the names of the components, just like we did with the previous exercise, we're going to use jQuery to grab the handlebar template code, and we're going to put those into custom Visualforce pages. And you can see the syntax that Ryan's using. we're calling the .html function to grab the handlebars template code using those selectors. And so once we have the code for that, and we have put those into our Visualforce components, our next step after that is going to actually be to create a Visualforce page, and we're going to create this Visualforce page for a body includes begin for B2B Commerce. Our last exercise was a header includes end. This is going to be a body includes begin this time. And so here, so yeah, you can take a look at our Visualforce page here, same kind of thing. So we're including our two Visualforce components for the grid view and the row view. And so we have 2 lines of JavaScript here. So we're making sure B2B Commerce knows to use our custom templates instead of the default templates for both of them. And so once that is set up, we are going to create a block helper. And so this block helper, it basically wraps all of our products in a div HTML element. And depending if the item is in stock or out of stock, this div element is going to have a class of in stock or out of stock. So you can see we're calling handlebars.register helper. We're calling the helper gray if out of stock. We are checking the product inventory items. If there's any in stock, we're adding the in stock class. If there's none in stock, we're just leaving it with a class of out of stock. And so that's what's going on with that handlebars block helper. So after that, our next step is to add some CSS to actually apply the effect, the special effect, to our out-of-stock products. And so what this is doing is it's decreasing the opacity of the images, and it's making it grayscale. We also added a bit of code to make the out-of-stock message more clear. So we made it red and we made it bold as well, just to make it very clear to our users and our user interface that these products are out of stock. All right, so now that we have, we've defined our handlebars block helper, we just have to go into our Visualforce components and we have to put the handlebars block expressions into those components. And so like I said earlier, a handlebars block expression encapsulates a block of code. And so we're going to encapsulate our products. And so up here, you should be able to see our gray if out of stock, and we're passing in a variable this time. And so we're passing in this, and in this context, what that means is the product. And so we're getting all the product data into this variable, and that comes through as a JavaScript object. And so that's where we're putting in our handlebars block expression. And so that's going to wrap that whole block of code in a div, and that's going to give it the in-stock or out-of-stock class. Yep, and there's the closing tag at the end. All right, so now that we have that all saved and configured and we're good, we're going to go into CC admin once again, and we're going to add configuration settings for body includes begin to the product list page. And so once we have done that, just like the previous exercise, we're going to build and enable the new configuration cache, which we have already prepared for this exercise. Yeah, and to do that, once again, just go to global settings, and we're going to go to configuration cache management, and you'd click on build new. And it might take a minute to build. We've got it all built, but this is where you go to configure your cache management. So now that that's all done, the only thing left to do is test out our work and see how it looks. So we'll scroll through the product list, and we have an out-of-stock product right here. So this is our Colombian blend, and it says, this product is currently not available, and the image has been turned to grayscale and made opaque. And so there we go, another piece of functionality achieved with Handlebars. Okay, so we have a few going further exercises. I'm going to switch back to my screen here. If you've followed this exercise, you want to go a bit further on your own. A few other cool things you could do. Number one, hide the add to cart button and the quantity field if the product is out of stock. So don't even let the user click on the quantity field or the add to cart button. Number two, check for product inventory item quantity in addition to status. So in our example, we were just checking on status, but see if you can modify it to also check the quantity of the product. So number three, disable the grayscale and opacity on mouse over. So if a user is browsing through and they see an out-of-stock image and it's grayscale and they want to see the full color image, let them mouse over that image and have it appear full color. And you can achieve that purely with CSS. And number four, if you want to go a bit more advanced, see if you can achieve the same functionality that we just did for this exercise without wrapping the products in an additional div element. All right, quick recap. What did we just do? So we basically made our out-of-stock products appear different on the storefront. And so we did, similar to our previous exercise, we found the templates we wanted to override. So it was two templates this time, the list view and the grid view. And we captured that template code. We put it into custom Visualforce components. We edited that code. We created a custom handlebars block helper. In our Visualforce page, we created a body includes begin configuration in CC admin. And we styled our out-of-stock products. All right, so the next exercise, I'm going to have Ryan take over the speaking, and I'm going to jump on the laptop and do the coding.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So for our next exercise, we're going to be going over grouping cart items. So the reason that we get asked this is that for some of our customers who are ordering a large number of products in a single cart, it can be difficult for them to be able to figure out what they've added to the cart so far. If there are hundreds of items, it can be difficult to figure out how many of any certain type of product they've actually purchased. So grouping the cart items together makes it much easier for their customers to be able to see what they've added so far. So let's switch over. And now, so to start out, we need to, once again, go to the UI properties file and find the particular template that we want to override. So we find the cart detail template. And once we have that, we need to go into the storefront on the cart page and get that HTML. So once we have that, we can then copy that, and we can build a new Visualforce component. And we'll add that code into the Visualforce component, and that will be our override for the cart detail template. Once we have that Visualforce component created, we need to create a new Visualforce page that will act as our body include begin override for the cart page. And we will need to, within that, we'll need to reference the Visualforce component that we've created and also override that template with the ID that we set for our Visualforce component. So now that we have that complete, one additional step we need to take here is we need to override the CC service cart item class. So with B2B Commerce, there's a data service layer that's included out of the box. And this data service layer has all of the queries that are run on each particular page and provide all of the data to the front end that's being used for those front-end templates. So we need to override the CC service cart item data service layer class so that we can add a new custom field, which in this case will be our category field. So we need to go in there and create a new extension, and we will add the get fields map override method, And with that, we'll add our new custom field into that query so that we can get that information on the front end. So now that we have that complete, we can go back to the Visualforce component and we can create our Handlebars block helper. So for this, we've registered a helper called grouped each. And with this, we're going to be able to identify all of the groupings related to each of the cart items within that cart. Once we know all of the groupings, we can then sort those groupings. And once we have those sorted, we can load into the front end a header for each of those groupings so that when the customer goes in there, they can see which grouping they're looking at. And then with those headers set up, we load the cart items under each of the groupings that they're related to. So now that we have that complete, we need to put our block helper expressions in the handlebars template markup. So as Andrew shows here, so we have our grouped each block expression here. And with this, we're passing in the cart items model so that this can pull through each of the cart items that are currently on the cart page. And this will iterate through them one by one and sort them into the correct grouping. So now that we have this complete, we need to go into CC admin. And we need to add a new body include begin override to be able to set our Visualforce page, df cart, to be used when the cart page is loaded. So once again, we set enabled to true, and we set the page include name to our Visualforce page. And with this, we also need to always include that C underscore underscores. That's just the requirement with B2B Commerce. So now that we have that, we can go additionally, since we're also using a data service layer override, we need to go into service management, and we need to find CC service cart item. And we need to include our new custom data service override that we've written. So we add in that class, and with the service management, we always need to include C dot at the beginning. That's just also a requirement with B2B Commerce, or else it can't figure out what you're doing. So now that we have that complete, we can go to global settings, and we would build a new configuration cache, as been shown before. And now that we have that complete, we can go into the store and we can validate that that's working. So you can see here we have coffee beans, and each of those are grouped under a coffee beans category. And coffee pots are grouped separately under coffee pots category. So now what did we cover? We covered why we need to do this for B2B customers who are ordering large numbers of products in the same cart. We covered how to locate the cart template. We created a Visualforce page for that cart. We talked about the data service layer and how to override that to pass in new fields and information. We talked about how to create handlebars to sort that cart, and how to set this all in the CC admin configurations. And now I'm going to pass this back over to Trish.
Sure. So in summary, so what we've tried to do today is give you guys the top 3 requests that we get pretty much in every customer. So that's being able to do the alert banners, right? How do we make out-of-stock items more visible and easier for the customer to understand? And then, of course, the custom cart sorting for that ease of order review and really understanding. A lot of our customers will actually, they have people who print out that cart and they send it over to their warehouse receiving and stuff like that. So people are able to use this in multiple different functions. Next slide. Okay. So we have a few minutes left. So we wanted to see if anybody had any questions. Anything, how can we help? Like I said, we've been together about 3 years doing lots of B2B commerce. So we've done high-end fashion, retail, manufacturing divisions, consumer goods. So we've seen a lot of some very difficult platforms. So does anybody have any questions today? Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. So you're asking, should we like do the banners and stuff at the beginning? Is that what you're saying? Or B2B Commerce? Okay. So the benefit of doing, so what we did today is we showed you guys some customizations on a pretty much out-of-the-box storefront, right? And so what we find, and that is actually how we go to market with our customers, right, is we try to stay as close as we can to the out-of-the-box storefront with Commerce Cloud. So we do that for performance issues is a big thing. B2B Commerce Cloud, you can run it headless, meaning it's completely headless. You're doing all of your styling and everything afterwards, and basically you're just using those back-end processes for Commerce Cloud. That usually does not perform very well. It's a great deal of customization to, first off, get the platform there and going, and it's a great deal of technical debt to keep supporting it. So we would try to say, go out of the box as much as you can. Use the helpers like we've shown here, handlebars and CSS, to give it some look and feel that's maybe a little bit more updated and things like that, versus trying to pull in a headless enterprise. Did I catch? Mm-hmm. So should you go with a partner or should you go on your own? Is that the question? I will tell you this. Salesforce has some great opportunities to learn and stuff like that. They do have a technical, like, 4-day academy. That just kind of brushes the start of B2B. B2B commerce can be quite cumbersome because you're going to have APIs, you're looking for out of stock. Very rarely are you putting everything on platform. And because of that, I would strongly encourage you to look at an SI who can help you. Just the little tips here of going C __ or C dot. If you don't understand those, or you're not able to program those and stuff like that, you'll never get your storefront up to work. Like, products don't show, price lists don't show, things like that. So there's a lot of implementers out there that do that. We'd love to earn your business anytime, but I would recommend an SI. A lot of SIs like ourselves will, if you have a Salesforce team, we will develop and co-develop with your team so that your team is learning, so that when the storefront is up and going, then you guys have the ability to support the store a long way. And so always ask for that. Ask for co-development. It does happen a lot. So, any other questions? Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the UI properties. So the documentation, you'll have to reach out to Salesforce and B2B Commerce to get the full documentation. They expose a certain amount of it on it's the Cloud Craze wiki, which is coming over to the Salesforce help documentation. So request the full documentation. It actually gives you all the handlebars templates available in PDF or web format. And so, and you're not limited. You're definitely not limited to those. If you're good at Backbone.js and you're good at Handlebars.js, you can implement your own subscriber views and templates, absolutely. And B2B Commerce definitely does allow for subscriber pages to be built and constructed. So you're not limited to those. One of the trickiest parts of B2B Commerce is identifying which template to override. And so if you look at UI properties, which you can go into static resources and into the zip file for the JavaScript framework, and you can review what we've shown, because we showed the path to get to it before. But it outlines everything, and what you can do if you're good in the inspector, you can inspect the element on the storefront, see what class it has or see what ID it has, and do a search for it in the UI properties and see if it matches up with any of those handlebar templates, so you can identify which one you're going to actually pull the code for. Yeah.
So those handlebars documentation is not available on the cloud.
Yeah, so it's not in the wiki today or the help desk. It's a more advanced template, but if you enter a support ticket for it, they'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Now, second question, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So if you have a three-column layout, and we want to keep things pretty much standard, okay? And if I wanted to add some new, let's say a widget or something, which shows up the trending products, okay? And it depends on the custom logic, like number of orders which has happened on past, okay? So depending on that, I want to create some custom widget, and I want to show it on the left hand, right hand side column. So again, you would recommend to use this overrides.
So what we do in this case, so this is called a layout override or a gross layout override in B2B Commerce, and you can actually search for that on the wiki. And so yes, and they do, that basically governs what appears in each column. If you have a 3-column layout, then that's the, you want to do a gross layout override to add either one of B2B Commerce's widgets or one of your own widgets to one of those columns, and you can rearrange what appears in each of those columns. Yeah.
So you need to override the cross layout and then maybe override the templates for adding those components into that specific place.
Yeah, so you can create your own Visualforce component and put it in the gross layout override and include that there. Or you could extend, if you wanted to extend an existing widget and make it longer or change it or add something to it, you can find the template for that widget and extend it. But if it's a totally new thing that you're implementing, it's likely going to be a separate file that you're going to include in there, a separate component.
Second question, third question, sorry. Is it really required to use handlebars, or we can just create simple Visualforce pages and just put it or include it before or after its header or before body?
So it's not required, and in fact, our footer doesn't have any handlebars code in it. It's just a pretty simple Visualforce page that shows a logo and some text and some links. And so we don't have any handlebars in that at all. So you can do that. Of course, B2B Commerce is built on Visualforce, the site.com platform and communities. And so you can run into some strange behavior with that, because what's happening in the background is it's running handlebars.compile, and it's putting these templates together. So if you just have some basic standard Visualforce components loading, a lot of the times they'll show up first and they'll pop up, and then handlebars.compile runs, and then everything else populates. So rendering behavior might be something to look into if you're running into that, but it is certainly possible to do that.
So just to add to that, so the more Visualforce pages you create, the more performance issues you will have, right? And so if you had subscribed to Salesforce SRA team and you had done that, they would come in. You're not going to pass code review, just so you know, because they're going to say the site's not going to perform well. Also, keep in mind, we all know that within 24 months, we're not going to be Visualforce based. We're going to be Lightning based in commerce. It is moving that way. That is safe harbor, right? It's not there yet, but we all know the direction of Salesforce is Lightning. So the more of that stuff that you build in Visualforce and those Visualforce pages, the more that you're going to have to do to transition later on. We've dealt with some clients who started in the old 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 days. It had tons and tons of those pages, and it has been many years of rework, I think 3 years of rework, just to try to get them up to the current 4.10 of 4.11. As we all know, with 4.11, we got a Lightning community instead of the old Visualforce plus Tabs community, which is great. So for that, and so we get better performance at. But there's a lot of people out there, big name companies, that did a lot of the Visualforce pages that are now having to pay the price, and it's very painful trying to get up to the latest versions. So try not to develop yourself into a future roadblock if you can. We've only got just a few seconds left. One more?
Just a question. I think the more on, I think what you presented for out of stock is basically based on the inventory that you have rather than the output, right? So in your broader experience, have you come across anything like pre-order where we are thinking of a scenario like we want to place, a dealer want to place a request for a futuristic order, but obviously you don't know what's the supply. So we have to present the data from the order promising, saying that, okay, how is my inventory going to look
You can do that, but we've actually, in high-end fashion retail, so think of it, it's winter time right now, they're starting to sell spring book and stuff like that, and so the spring book's not actually in stock, and so we actually have pages for that spring book that is, and that captures their request so that they know how many garments to make. And so it's, contact us at cognizenttradingpost.com, send that question to us, we'll be glad to send you guys an answer. So, all right. Thank you guys very much for coming today. Hope everybody had a great Dreamforce.